Hey y'all, sorry some of them this week have been really long, but it's like there's a lot of stuff in here that's really good to look at that could really be helpful for us. So I hope it is. Hope you've watched till the end because some of them are a bit long. But anyway, there we go. Um, so we're going to go 57 to finish off, and we're going into we're in Missouri, and they've been told that, build up Missouri, but actually you're not going to be here for this. Is not the land of your inheritance, but you'll be here for a little while. And they're like still doing that whole, but how long and what do we do? And yeah, so there's still more of that going on. Um, it says in the heading here that Joseph Smith contemplated the state of the Lamanites and wondered, when will the wilderness blossom as the rose? When will Zion be built up in her glory? And where will thy temple stand, unto which all nations shall come in the last days? And he received this revelation because they had a temple in Kirtland, but it never really got finished properly. Here in Missouri, they'll get the Nauvoo temple, and then that gets taken away from them as well before they head off into Utah. So they don't really have a timeline, and the Lord's time obviously works a lot different to ours. We have very linear timelines and we like to see points on it, and it doesn't always work like that. And this is part of other people's plans changing and affecting our lives. So 15 through 17. No, sorry, 8 and 15. But also 16 to 17. It's really good, goes with us. So, 51, 16 to 17 goes with us because that's what we sort of started. So, 57:8 says, this is to Sidney Gilbert. And again, verily I say unto you, let my servant Sidney Gilbert plant himself in this place and establish a store, that he may sell goods without fraud, that he may obtain money to buy lands for the good of the saints, that he may obtain whatsoever things the disciples may need to plant them in their inheritance. And then over in 15 he says, and now concerning the gathering, let the bishop and the agent, which is Sidney Gilbert, make preparations for those families which have been commanded to come to this land as soon as possible, and plant them in their inheritance. So where have you been planted, and what is your work? Because that's what it was for them. And they were preparing so that others could come and plant and do their work. So this is again, these saints, where they were in such a short time, they were asked, shall we plant a garden? And it's like, yes, plant a garden, grow that silver beet. Go back and watch the first one. Plant that silver beet, plant the garden, do whatever work. I was just talking to Sister Hart yesterday. She's came to my institute class. She's one of our senior missionaries around here, but she was primary president before I was, back and like a gazillion million years ago. I want to say 2008 maybe. Anyway, it's a long time ago. So she was primary president, but she was on the primary presidency. They were in our ward maybe 6 to 8 months, really short time, while they waited to buy a house out where they did in Templeview. And so she was called onto the primary presidency. Our primary president said, I'm leaving, I'm going back to Australia. You need to release me. And she left. They didn't have anyone to call. And it was right over our holiday break period, what Americans, I think you call it your summer break. Well, we have sort of a summer break, but it's only about 2 months. I think yours is 3 months, and ours is December, January. Anyway, that period of time. So it's a period of time that's kind of crazy for everybody anyway. And she got called as primary president for about 3 months. It was about that short, 3 or 4 months, just as an interim. And she had already said, when Bishop went to call her, our Bishop went to call her at the time, we're moving, we're going to move at the end of January. And he's like, that's fine, I just need you for these few months. This is part of, I need you right now, and you can do this right now. So when I took over from her, and I was in there for 4 years. But she's only been there for like 3 or 4 months in that role. So that was part of, I know I'm going to move on. I'm not staying in this ward, but I will do what you need me to do, and I will help for this time that I have. So that's what it was. That was my example. I just thought of that. It doesn't matter if you're going to be in a calling for a few months, a few weeks, or whatever. If the Lord needs you to do something, then do it. Plant the garden, do the work. You're there for a reason for that time. No matter how short or long that space of time is, there's a work for you to do. So plant so you can grow. Be a steward for others, even if for a short amount of time your influence is good and far-reaching. So where have you been planted? What is your work? Now, Sydney Gilbert, I just got to say here too with his show, and I just got to point this out because this is so cool. This dude was awesome. He was incredibly shy, did not want to go and proselyte. He served a very short mission, but didn't really want to go preach the gospel. What he did do, and this is where we can preach the gospel in other ways, not necessarily going knocking on doors and talking to people like that. We can do it in other ways. When the mobs came one time, he gave them everything and gave stuff out of a store, just gave it to them so they'd go away. Another time they came and he gave up the entire store area, moved it somewhere else, and actually said to them, "Don't attack the saints, take me." He said, "Take me, I'll go. I'll be, beaten up, whatever, attack me." And they left, which was good. Sydney Gilbert also invited sick people that were arriving in the area who had cholera, which is a terrible, awful disease and a huge killer, into his home. And come in, you need somewhere to stay. You've just arrived from wherever you've come from, probably Europe, with some goodness. It's like inviting someone with COVID into your home and going, "You need somewhere to stay. Come sleep on my couch." I don't know a lot of us that are going to be doing that anytime soon. It's kind of scary, right? And yet he was willing to do that. Incidentally, he also caught cholera and he did pass away from that. But this is the kind of person we're talking about, is someone who has such a good heart, who wants to help, who wants to do what they can, who is not perfect and knows he isn't, but wants to just help other people. And that's someone I want to be. I'm not perfect. I just want to help other people. That's what I want to do. Whether it's helping them with a shirt for their mission, whether it's helping them have something to eat that night, whether it's having them sleep overnight on my couch when they arrive here from another country, and I've done that, and maybe not with COVID, but many other times I've helped out. So we can always do something. There's always something that we can do. There's a work for us to do. Our influence is far-reaching, and there's always something that you can be a steward over at the time. Go back to the first one if you want to know what steward is. All right, we're going to close with the Outer Holland because I have already talked way too much this week, and I apologize again. I've got to try and cut these down, but it's just such good information. Hopefully it just uplifts and strengthens you. Please, hopefully. I noticed my videos have been watched a lot, and I'm just hoping that's because something else is going on, or are you all bored of me? Let me know anyway. All right. He said, Elder Holland, this is really good. He said, the report that matters most is how you have blessed and cared for those within your stewardship. And that was talking about years ago when they were talking about ministering. I don't know if it was the change from visiting to home teaching to ministering, but it was in a training. I don't think it was conference. It was in a training. He may have repeated at a conference, but this particular quote is from a training he gave about, the church is not a church of reports. It's about, helping others. And the only report that matters is how you have blessed and cared for those within your stewardship. Not how many people you got to come to church, although that's great too. But what actually matters is how you cared for them. All right? How you cared for those in your stewardship. What you did to help others. That's what matters. So, awesome. That's the end of that. Sydney Gilbert, awesome example for this week to go learn more about. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining me this week, and I'll see you next week. Just 2 chapters to cover next week, 58 and 59. Looking forward to those, and I'll see you there. Mwah.